Yo, what's up? Bob here. Welcome to Vinyl Finds on the Bob Bradley YouTube channel. Here today with
Jeffrey Lee Puckett.
Bam. Found some records this week, and we're going to get into those right now. Let's get started. Jeffrey, do you want to lead us off with this?
I'll lead us off with an anti-find. Because sometimes finds come to you.
That's true. That is true. That is very true.
And
I had some of those last week.
let's say about a month ago, I helped a fella. I worked part-time at a record store. A fella needed, one of our regular customers needed help with his turntable.
Right.
It wasn't holding speed. So I fixed it. It turned out to be fairly simple, but I fixed it. He was incredibly grateful. He promised to bring me an album to compensate.
Right.
And he kept forgetting, and it put off. This was probably more like 6 weeks ago. And finally he came into the store, and instead of one record, he had a stack of records. And I was very thrilled and flattered. This is my new favorite band, Scientist. It's it's an Australian garage rock band. This is the only record they ever released in the U.S. And what they did is they compiled their best tracks and then re-recorded them. So it's all fresh versions.
Oh, okay.
And they're like the Krantz without all the shtick. You know, there's none of the makeup or death or blah, blah, blah.
Right.
It's just garage rock. It's really good.
Weird Love, right? Is that the name?
Weird Love.
Weird Love.
Weird
Incredible looking cover, by the way.
He threw in this later period Blue Note Lou Donaldson. It's the blue label Blue Note, from the 80s, 70s, 80s. This was a nice surprise. This one is probably not going to stay in my possession. My girlfriend has sworn she's taken this. It's a Smog, Bill Callahan, nice 90s, Drag City, Chicago, all that. He's super quiet, super depressing. Real low key. This was the one I was most liked about, Elevator to Hell. This was a sub pop record. This guy Eric also had a band called Eric's Trip, which I was a big fan of back in the day. And I've never owned this, only on CD, which doesn't count, obs. So this was in there, I couldn't believe it. And this one I think is probably going to wind up in Bob's hands because it's Herbie Hancock. This was never released on vinyl. It's only available as a bootleg, and this is just a really nice bootleg. It's unofficial release. It's music mixed with snippets from the movie.
Right.
So it's got some dialogue and whatnot. And I know you love Herbie Hancock.
That's fact.
And this was, obviously free to me. So there you go. You'll get a lot more fun out of it than I ever will. I listened to it and I really enjoyed it. It is, as you like to say, funky as hell.
It's funky as hell. Yeah. I was getting cell phone videos sent to me of said record there. So, all right, I'll show something. So, a little bit of theme going on here. This is also a picked up for my wife Janet. Boom, Jethro Tull. Oh, too old to rock and roll, too young to die. I always see this T-shirt and I'm like, ooh, that's a cool looking shirt.
T-shirt, yeah.
And she's a Tull fanatic. It's something about the flute and like her. I don't know. It's just her particular. I don't know. She's into Star Trek and Renaissance fairs. I don't know how those two things work together, but somehow it equals Tull.
That's a pretty good description of Jethro Tull.
Right.
Star Trek and Renaissance
right,
fairs.
Exactly. So
I still have a soft spot for two Tull albums. I like Aqualung still, and I like Thick as a Brick.
Yeah, and I think that if they ever announce the one step Aqualung,
right.
I might get on the list just to make Janet happy. So.
It's a solid record.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
It really is.
Let me just segue into this.
Sure.
Speaking of funky as hell, boom, Freddie Hubbard, Windjammer. Okay, yeah. Some people are like, oh yeah, Windjammer, that's a $1 record or whatever. Yeah, but guess what? It's a great $1 record. If you're into these kind of 360 Columbia labeled, 70s jazz excursions. This is it, right here. Turns out I love Freddie Hubbard.
Same.
Everything he's on, I'm just like,
Yeah.
Freddie Hubbard is the man.
I mean, look at his resume.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, he starts at Blue Note. He's on some of the most famous jazz records of all time. And then he just keeps going.
He just, yeah,
Just keeps
it's just
going,
like he's
keeps
on
going.
everything.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, holy shit, Freddie Hubbard's on this.
He's like the Ronald Isley of jazz trumpeters.
Yes.
He just keeps getting better and he keeps going.
Right, and every great album seems to feature him somehow.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. This is another one that came at me. This one I did not dig for. This is the replacements anniversary issue of Don't Tell a Soul. And the big deal about this is that the original producer, Matt Wallace, finally got to mix the album as it was intended to be mixed.
Right.
Because back in '84 or whenever it was, they hired Chris Lord Alge. Whenever there's a hyphen in a dude's last name, there's going to be trouble. And he did this big, bloated, radio-ready mix of it. And this is more replacements mix. It's more direct, in-your-face rock and roll. And if you want to make fun of me in the comments section, you should go to Discogs under the blog menu. And I review this release for Discogs, Jeffrey Lee Puckett. It's very well written. This is really well. If you're a replacements fan, this is a no-brainer.
go read it.
It comes with a bunch of CDs that have an entire live show. It's great.
Even better, I will link it in the comments.
Whoop.
It'll be pinned at the top with all the rest of the things that I
Nice. Thank you.
Okay, so I was out digging in the crates, if you will, and bam, saw this record. This is King Curtis live at the Fillmore West. And I thought, okay, I don't know this record, but it's interesting because it's a promo,
Right. Always interesting.
white label,
Even more.
at that, right? And I thought, okay, I'll look it up. I look it up, and there's only been one copy sold on Discogs of the promo, and it was $80.
What?
Yeah. So this was $5.
That math adds up in
So
your
that,
favor.
right. So I thought, well, I'll buy it. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but I see this record around a lot, just the standard issue of the record. So it's pretty clean looking, really.
I'm familiar with King Curtis. The best King Curtis thing I have is he did a soul version of Whole Lotta Love.
I've heard that.
And
Yeah,
I have the 45 of that, and it jams pretty well. Hey, Jay, come on up. Well, I'll pick you up. You all remember Jasper.
Jasper.
He always likes his camera time. All right, let's do some local music.
Local?
Local with,
Okay,
with a bit of a quotation mark.
All right.
I am a big fan of Dwight Yoakam. This is one of my favorite albums by Dwight. Buenas Noches from a Lonely Room. This has She Wore Red Ribbons, which is just tear your heart out song.
Yeah.
And I think I might already have this, but I could not
I'm sure you
resist
do.
backing it up, if not. This is NRBQ. This is their first album on Columbia. This was back when Steve Ferguson was in the band. Steve Ferguson and Terry Adams were Louisville natives. That's where Bob and I live. They're Louisville natives. They moved down to Miami to really get NRBQ going. But this is an album that has... Can you read all that? Real quick. Just read it. Too late. This is the album that has both Terry and Steve on it. It has some of their most famous songs, Fergie's Prayer, Stomp. The cover Sun Ra, for crying out loud. What rock and roll band covers Sun Ra?
Steve Ferguson, incredible guitar
Oh my
player.
gosh.
Incredible.
Dude used to play just on random Tuesday nights at small clubs in town. You would go and pay your $3, and Steve Ferguson would tear the eyes out of your head
Oh, yeah.
for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, he would literally blast the brain right out of the back of your skull. That said, Jeffrey has all of these thought out things to say and great finds and all this kind of depth going on. And I've got this Cal Jader record with a bottle of Tabasco on the front that I literally bought because I was like, look at that cover. And you got to admit, I mean, this looks great. It's on Verve. Cal,
that is a great cover.
People say his name different. I believe it's Cal Jader.
Yeah.
Possibly. Vibraphonus, I believe, as well. But, I listened to some of this. It sounds pretty good. But,
I don't think Cal really goes hard. He's just more of a dinner party jazzer, which I like.
Okay.
No, I don't
All
mean
right.
that in a pejorative sense. I think that kind of jazz to me is very worthwhile and fun to have around.
What's worse, dinner party jazz or game show jazz?
Game show jazz, obviously.
Oh, come on. All right. Go again, Jeffrey.
This is one I haven't opened because I don't have to. This is My Morning Jacket's first album. It was the recent anniversary.
Yes.
20th anniversary. This have I shown this before? I don't think it.
No.
Have I? Okay. So they just re-released this.
He showed it to me.
Tennessee Fire just re-released it. It has some bonus tracks. This came, not to name drop, this came direct from the source. Jim gave me a copy of this because we're old buddies. And someday I'll open it and compare it to the original Tennessee Fire to see what time has done to the master tapes. Because I believe the original was complete analog.
Yeah, I would say. Huge My Morning Jacket fan. Jim, holler at me. No, it's never gonna happen. Bam. I've been building this West Montgomery
You really have.
collection here.
All in the last 6 weeks.
In the wee small hours, Wes Montgomery, he's here on the front with a Gibson hollow body guitar. This is typical Wes. Beautiful stuff, octaves, notes played with such ease.
That's for sure.
You can't. The guy is a total virtuoso, and people just don't give him the credit that he deserves anymore.
I wonder why. I mean, he was very popular. Obviously, he made more records than most guitar players.
That's true, but I think as jazz is aged, the guitar jazz is not as popular as the horn jazz.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. So that's all it is.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Are there any hard, legitimate jazz guitarists going right now?
Yeah, there are. Yeah. It depends. Now, see, you've opened a can of worms there.
They're more fusiony than
no,
than straight?
yes, but you okay.
This was a big question to throw at you.
It was
unannounced,
but we'll get into this at another time.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we'll do a whole video of jazz guitar.
Maybe
fun.
that might be good. Yeah. Well, that would be great. But,
Yeah. I can show off my Jimmy Rainey albums. Keep it local.
You're up.
All right, I had a birthday recently. I'm owed AF, even though I don't look like it, keeping it tight. My girlfriend, Crystal, who's a gem, bought me these 2 records.
Speaking of jazz guitar.
For my birthday. Yeah, that was a segue, accidentally.
That was a segue.
She got me this Blue Note 80th anniversary of Grant's First Stand. I'll listen to it to see if there are any pitch problems. Haven't played it yet, obviously, still sealed. And finally, I got my favorite Oasis album on vinyl. I don't have a lot of hopes for this because I think Oasis never really paid any attention to how well anything was recorded. I'm one of those dudes.
It could sound better now,
I like
actually.
stuff to be recorded well, in addition to being great music.
Right.
And the CD of this was never an audiophile delight.
But that could be good.
But this is spread out over 2 LPs instead of 1, as the original was. And I just like having it because sometimes you get your drink on, you want to hear "Don't Look Back in Anger" really loud, And now that's going to happen.
It's easily their best song. Okay. See, this is really just going to drive this home on how poor my pickups were this week. Here's the deal. Dollar record, super clean. I thought, I could throw it in on a trade in the future. Boom, Oscar Peterson Trio plus Clark Terry. Yeah. Speaking of dinner jazz, Oscar Peterson here. This is on Red Mercury label.
I like the cover.
The cover is amazing looking. You know, this it has been downgraded to a non-flapped sleeve, so it's probably on its.
Probably.
I might keep it. It looks cool. So
the worst thing you can say about Oscar Peterson is you've heard one Oscar album. You have heard every Oscar album. I mean, he's not an adventurous type. But it's a good. The one album he keeps making is a good album.
It's right.
There you go.
That's right.
There you go.
Did you got more stuff over there?
My two big jazz finds are a lot better than yours.
He's not lying about that, actually.
At the record store where I work, we got in a whole bunch of jazz records, and I let everyone, including Bob,
I benefited from that.
Buy the rest, but I insisted on getting this copy of Cornbread by Lee Morgan because I do not have this album. This is on Blue Note Liberty, so it is after the glory days of Blue Note, but it's close enough.
Nice and clean too.
Close
by the
enough.
Way, yeah.
It's a clean VG Plus copy of Cornbread. This is the gem. Bill Evans, my favorite piano player. How My Heart Sings. This is a first press on Riverside with the microphone, reel-to-reel icon. And it looks a lot better than it plays. It plays with pretty much constant low-level campfire sounds and occasional pretty good pops too.
Listen, it's not near as bad as Jeffrey makes it out to be. Okay, I've heard the record. It's fine.
I like my Bill Evans to be quiet. But here's the thing: I have an OJC reissue from the '80s. OJC in the '80s were as good as like Tone Poets and stuff. I mean, they were really well done from the master tapes. But even with the surface noise, this sounds more like a piano. It sounds more like drums. It sounds more like a bass. Mm-hmm. It's just a better recording because, I mean, the master tapes obviously were fresh.
Right.
Very happy to have this added to the collection. Both those together cost me $30 plus a pretty mint copy of Pink Floyd Animals as trade-in, which, you know, is a $25, $30 record these days.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool and all, but look at this cover. Look at that. It's got a bottle of... It's like... This is almost like a bottle of Tabasco, but it says Cal Jader on it. It says soul sauce on it. What? I mean, that's incredible. Okay, clearly Jeffrey Lee Puckett bringing the heat.
Oh, wait a minute.
This week. Oh.
I forgot.
Are you kidding me?
This is not an album.
Not an album.
But at a Peddler's Mall, I got a Waylon Jennings mirror.
This is a gigantic cocaine mirror.
Yeah, and... Well, Waylon was a gigantic cocaine user. I assume this is like a state fair kind of thing you went at the Midway.
Perfect, yeah.
But that was sitting there. My good friend Tyler Lance Walker Gill, who loves Waylon Jennings, is very annoyed that I have this mirror.
Have the mirror. You know, maybe one day you can leave it to him in your will.
Yeah, exactly.
Tyler will be pleased. Anyhow, please like, subscribe, tell a friend, leave some comments down below.
Yes.
Until we meet again. Bob out.
Jasper out.